welcome to the Oshkosh Poet Laureate podcast. I'm Tom Cannon, the Poet Laureate. I'm honored to hold the title of Poet Laureate of Oshkosh. However, I know the role was not created to celebrate my poetry, but to foster poetry in Oshkosh. I do read poetry, I write poetry, but I never really tried to celebrate it. So this role has helped me to examine the values of poetry and its importance in our lives. Poetry is especially relevant for writers. I believe that even if you're writing nonfiction, a short story, or a novel, there is a poem rolling around in your psyche, lighting up words to use like a pinball machine. So this is my message to writers. If you write poetry, then you are a poet, and make sure to call yourself a poet. There is no minimum number of people that have to read your work to be called a writer. Like being a poet, if you write anything and you want to share it with people, you can call yourself a writer. I was lucky enough to be named the Poet Laureate of Oshkosh. And perhaps I will go on to make an impact on more readers, but I don't need to be concerned with that. I have met people in Oshkosh that will never publish their work, but they had the impact on the right number of people. We've had members of our writers group. We had a member of a writers group. He hasn't shown up in a long time, but he would collect these crazy stories from his youth. I always remember his story about the time he put a V12 motorboat into a 1929 Mercury. That communication loop was successful. He wrote something, it was read, and it will be remembered. Last year, we had another writer die of COVID-19. Linda's writing will not reach the audience she hoped for, but those people that read it or heard her read it will carry a piece of it with them. Now, certainly not as many people as Stephen King, but more than if she had not written it. So let's write what we want to write and let the chips fall where they may. Let's try to get published. Let's go to open mics. Let's have the audience that we can, because that way we impact now. It's all we can do, and it's all we need to do. Right now, I'm going to finish up by reading a poem by another Oshkosh poet, Paul Christie. I'm going to be reading out of Nuances of Time. He is a local author that has passed away, and he didn't have any of his poems published until late in his life. Really, he was only focused on getting material bound together so that he could give them to his relatives and to the people that he worked with, volunteered with at Mercy Medical Center. And I think that is a great way for him to be remembered. He made the impact on who he needed to. He certainly made an impact on me. So I'm going to be rereading his poem, The Journey of Life. The journey of life. Broken stars fade. On earth we live. Those eyes, those childish eyes, those hazel eyes of mine. Resting eyes, sleeping, weeping eyes. Eyes in heaven, those eyes. In the city at night, then the lights wink on and off like blinking eyes. Around stone buildings, stairs, eyes of rats and roaches. A graffiti of eyes. Ugly graffiti. God, what are we as we populate the earth, and I the universe?